When CEO Brandon Cole slammed his hand on the table and shouted, "Fix this mess and I'll give you $90 million," everyone in the room laughed. They thought he was mocking a nobody, a quiet teenage boy who only came because his mother was cleaning the office. But what happened next left the entire company frozen, because the maid's son knew something none of them did. The conference room of Cole Innovations buzzed with panic. Screens kept flashing red, alarms beeped, and frustrated engineers whispered to each other, afraid to make eye contact with the furious CEO. "I want this fixed, now," Brandon snapped, pacing across the room. His expensive leather shoes clicked sharply against the floor. The company's new security system had crashed hours before a massive investor presentation. Millions were at stake. Standing quietly near the back was Maria Torres, the building's evening cleaner. She kept her head down, clutching her gloves. She usually never entered the conference room when executives were inside. But today, she had to bring her son. Ethan Torres, 16 years old, stood beside her. Slim, shy, wearing an oversized hoodie. His eyes scanned the room with quiet curiosity, not fear. He kept looking at the code flashing on the big screen, as if something about it was calling him. Brandon caught sight of them. "Why is there a kid in the room?" he barked. Maria swallowed hard. "Sir, I'm sorry. I couldn't leave him alone at home today. I'll just—" Brandon raised a hand sharply. "Fine, whatever. Just stay out of the way." Everyone returned to arguing, pointing fingers, blaming each other. One engineer muttered, "This system is too advanced. No one outside our team could fix it." Another sighed. "It's impossible before the investors arrive." Ethan's eyes narrowed. He stepped a little closer, just enough to see the main error message. It wasn't impossible. It was familiar, like something he had seen before. Maria noticed her son staring. "Honey, don't touch anything," she whispered nervously. But he wasn't touching. He was thinking. Brandon slammed his hand on the table again, exasperated. This stupid system. Fix this, and I'll give you $90 million. Executives laughed under their breath. Everyone knew he didn't mean it literally. But Ethan didn't laugh. He tilted his head, studying the code. He whispered almost to himself. "Why would they place the encryption key inside the diagnostic folder?" One engineer snapped. "What did you just say?" Ethan froze. He hadn't meant to speak out loud. Maria stepped forward protectively. "Sorry, sir." He didn't mean... But the engineer interrupted her. "Kid, how do you know that?" The room grew silent. Ethan hesitated. His voice was soft, but steady. "Because that's not how modern security systems are built. That's old pattern architecture. Whoever programmed this used a structure from 15 years ago. It's outdated and easy to break." The engineers stared at him like he had spoken a foreign language. Brandon scoffed loudly. "Oh, please. My team can't fix it, but a janitor's kid can. Give me a break." Maria pulled Ethan back, shame and fear in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Ethan. Don't speak again, okay?" But Ethan kept staring at the screen. His fingers twitched slightly. The code. It wasn't just familiar. It was almost identical to a program he had built online under a secret username. Something no one knew about. Not even his mom. His heart pounded. Was that possible? Before he could say anything else, Brandon stepped toward him, towering over him with a smirk. "You think you can fix what my 5 senior engineers can't?" Ethan didn't answer. He just looked at the screen again. And for the first time, a tiny spark of confidence warmed his eyes. Like he knew something big. Something the entire company didn't. The room waited, and the suspense thickened as Ethan took one slow step forward. Not to fix anything yet, but to confirm something first. Ethan stood frozen as the room went silent, every monitor reflecting the panic of a billion-dollar company on the edge of collapse. His mother, Maria, watched from the corner, clutching her cleaning cart, her hands trembling. Logan Pierce, the arrogant CEO, who had been mocking her minutes earlier, paced behind Ethan with crossed arms. "Go on, kid," he said with a smirk. "Show us your magic." But it wasn't a joke anymore. Not after the system had shut down live during their investor broadcast. Not after the headquarters went into lockdown mode. And definitely not after Ethan typed a few commands that none of the senior engineers recognized. He leaned forward, breathing deeply, trying to quiet the hammering in his chest. "Mom," Ethan whispered without turning around, "you still there?" "Always," Maria replied, her voice soft but steady. For the first time in hours, Ethan smiled. He tapped another sequence, tracing the code as if it were a map only he could see. His fingers flew across the keyboard, pausing only to adjust a function that had been incorrectly configured by the company's lead developer, the same function that had caused the entire network crash. Behind him, one of the engineers gasped. "Hold on, he found the dead loop. We missed that for 3 weeks." Logan's smirk faded. "Are you telling me this kid is actually fixing it?" No one answered, because every single person in that room had their eyes locked on Ethan. A progress bar appeared on the giant screen. 20%, 47%, 81%, then 100%. The screens flickered. Systems rebooted. Security protocols lifted. Investor feeds reconnected. The red emergency lights switched back to white. The crisis was over. A sound escaped the room, half gasp, half cheer. Engineers stood up. Managers clapped their hands over their mouths. Someone whispered, "Who is this kid?" Maria stepped closer, wiping tears from her cheeks. Ethan finally looked up, exhausted, eyes shining. "Okay," he said, leaning back. "It's done." Silence. A stunned, heavy silence. Then Logan Pierce, the same CEO who laughed at Ethan and insulted. Maria approached slowly. He swallowed hard. "You actually did it." Maria wrapped an arm around her son, holding him as if she were afraid he might disappear. One of the investors rushed forward. "This boy just saved your entire company. Your stock would have crashed to zero if he didn't step in." Logan's face went pale. He stared at Ethan like he was seeing him for the first time. Not as a Maid's son, not as a joke, but as the genius who prevented a billion-dollar disaster. He cleared his throat. "Listen, about the 90 million..." The room went dead silent. Ethan shook his head softly. "I don't want your money." Maria's jaw dropped. "Ethan, what?" He took her hands, his voice gentle. "What I want is something you can't buy." Logan frowned. "What's that?" Ethan looked directly at him. "Respect." The room froze. "Respect for people like my mom," Ethan continued. "Respect for the workers you laugh at. Respect for the people who keep this building clean so you can sit in those chairs." Maria covered her mouth, tears spilling down. Logan stood speechless, shame flooding his face. Then Ethan added quietly, "And a full scholarship, for me, and for every employee's kid who wants to study tech." The investors looked at each other. Whispers filled the room. Finally, Logan nodded slowly, voice cracking. "Done." Maria broke into sobs, hugging Ethan so tightly he could barely breathe. "You didn't just save them," she whispered. "You saved us." The engineers erupted into applause. Even the strict security lead came forward and shook Ethan's hand. As they walked out of the building, Maria wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "Ethan, you changed our whole life in minutes." He put an arm around her shoulders. "No, Mom, you raised me to believe I could." And for the first time in years, Maria didn't feel like a maid. She felt like the mother of a hero,